If you work hard, if you apply yourself, if you prove yourself to be a true Buckeye in the next hour, we will consider removing your black stripe. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Ohio State is our topic, of course. We're on the Buckeyes channel. Please subscribe. Get the like portion of this out of the way. You know you will. So just like the video, and let's keep it going here at the Voice of College Football. Tony Gerderman's right next to me. It's BuckeyeHuddle.com for Tony. And Buckeye Weekly is the podcast. And again, a tremendous resource, folks. Got to get there on a regular basis. Buckeye Weekly. Tony, how you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me here, Mark. It's year what? The wrapping up of year 5?
This out last week. Tony, was really good to see this. 52. Now follow me. We're not talking exactly perfect whole numbers. They are whole numbers, but 52 times 5, 260, folks. This is our 6th year we're starting, 5 full years in the can. And if we went back and played video number 1, I believe all 4 of us are there looking rather dapper and
younger.
Yes, that is something we can't fight, can we? We can fight all we want, but Father Time. All right, folks, comments, questions, super chats available as well. We appreciate you joining. Tony, the amount of trolling that I saw for, not to disparage Jayvan Boggs and his talents and skills, but for the 25th rated wide receiver in the country, that Ohio State and Brian Hartline have lost their touch and what's going on. But he's a South Florida kid. This is pretty routine. It's pretty routine, period, all over the place. So is there any particular reason why maybe I just happened to run into more than usual?
Well, if you're on the internet, you're going to run into the trolls. But anytime something bad happens for Ohio State, there are going to be some people who are happy about it. And if you follow recruiting long enough, or every single year, there's something bad is going to happen. Decommits happen all the time. This one was kind of out of the blue, in my opinion, because Jayvan Boggs grew up an Ohio State fan. His family was Ohio State fans, so they were all happy. Like, they're originally from Ohio. He moved to Florida. Talked to him last year. I think they moved to Florida when he was like 6. And so this was a dream come true to be able to commit to Ohio State, to get offered by Ohio State and to commit. And, but yes, the Florida situation, the Florida aspect of recruiting is, as Urban Meyer would say, when a Florida kid commits to you, that just means they're interested, and you still have to continue to work. I think with Brian Hartline's track record, when they go out and offer somebody, and Boggs was somewhere in like I don't know, I'd have to go back on my timeline and look at on Twitter when he was offered. He was somewhere in like the 60s, maybe, in wide receivers nationally, because I remember comparing it to Jackson Smith and Jigba, who when he was offered or when he committed, he was like the number 58 receiver in the nation at Ohio State. And you just saw him rise up like you've seen Boggs do over the offseason. But I know they really, really liked him. I'm not going to ever get too concerned about wide receiver recruiting under Hartline, even though there have been some ups and downs in terms of production and transfers and things like that, but still relatively early with the 2025 kids.
Yes, Steve, from what I've seen from the Ohio State fans on social media, of course, they've taken the opposite tact, of course, and said, yeah, this is a mere 4-star wide receiver. Why do we need him? We're moving on. We've got somebody better to look at. And I saw a long list of wide receivers, of course, that are on the target list.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it last night. Kevin and I were covering the basketball game last night with Ohio State, and the news broke, I think, about the time that game was getting going, about 7 o'clock or so, maybe a little earlier. I don't know. But, you look at his ranking, he's down around 200 nationally, probably, 8, 9, 10 wide receiver in the country in his class. And, Hartline, he recruits national top 30 players, falling out of bed every day, it feels like. So, you've got Jeremiah Smith, who's a true freshman, number 1 overall prospect in the country at wide receiver. I think they're going to be okay at wide receiver whether, Jayvan Boggs eventually comes to Ohio State or not. I guess he's supposed to visit Georgia this coming weekend, perhaps, and maybe that was an impetus for this. And certainly with Florida kids, you just, you put them in your recruiting class and you just kind of put it in there in pencil, because a lot of times there's going to be some drama, some decommittage, some recommittage, some uncommittage, and no committage. So, whatever.
Jaden Proctor left.
It's
that
amazing.
level committage. Yes.
Yeah, Jaden Proctor. We got into there. Caden Proctor. We got into that last week, and Ohio. It's amazing. Ohio State has had football for like 125 years. They've made it this far without Jayvan Boggs, and I think they'll probably be okay for the next several years, probably, whether he's there or not. And that's not to diminish any one kid or to pile on this kid in any way, shape, or form, but I just do not get wrapped around the axle about one guy. So that's just kind of my, 5 mile up in the air viewpoint.
Kevin, what kind of prospect is Jayvan Boggs, and is he gone for good?
It's rare that a kid decommits and then ends up going back to the school. It's not impossible. It does happen, but we certainly talk about that as the outlier more than we talk about that as the rule. So I would assume he's gone at this point. Cocoa High School, interesting history there, and I wasn't here to hear all of Tony's comments, so if I repeat anything, I do apologize there, but that was, Bruce Judson was from there. Jamel Dean was from there. I mean, obviously they've had hits where they've gone through. I mean, Cedric Hawkins, who's currently on the team, was from Cocoa, but there's been a certain level of thumbs up, thumbs down that comes out of there in terms of how recruiting works for Ohio State. Ohio State is suddenly much more involved with some other national type wide receivers, and I don't think that this was a move to clear the decks for other players. We're going to go silent on you and see if you get the hint and go away. I think that all said and done, Ohio State would have really preferred to land Jayvan Boggs in the class, but I did catch the end of Tony's comments, and Steve echoed this. I mean, for Ohio State and wide receivers with Brian Hartline there, not really a reason to get concerned, because when somebody's off the board, that means somebody else gets added to the board, and there are a lot of intriguing prospects out there nationally and even in state. And this just moves everything one spot.
I mentioned trolling earlier, and Steve mentioned the basketball team. Did anyone here catch any flack or anything, considering who the Buckeyes lost to last night?
Damn, they couldn't even get revenge for Marvin. I mean, what a sad state of affairs that was, I have to tell you. Kevin and I were courtside last night, and for 30 minutes, they just didn't have it. And then they played like their hair was on fire the last 10 minutes, trying to steal the game at the end. The better team won, at least last night. I don't think better team on paper won, but the better team, the team that played the better game won last night. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And you can't have it every night. So that's just the way it works. But yeah, they definitely missed on a shot of revenge at the Bulldogs, and the guys on the bench were over there barking like bulldogs last night. I thought that was kind of cool, but that was maybe the only cool thing that happened, other than when OSU's Jamison Battle missed the shot at the end. Everybody came over and gave him a hug, and it was just kind of like, damn, we all just did this together this last 6 weeks, didn't we? It was more of a celebration of what they had done together, achieved, going 8-3 here after the coach was fired, than being too broken up about the fact that they aren't in the Final Four of the NIT. So, whatever.
Steve, Kevin, I'll break it to you. If you have not figured out, based on the coloring of the show, the banner, and the post on X, that, my brilliant brain, since we were already defaulted to the black here based on whatever show we did, previously connect. Oh, black stripe. Hey, let's do a little theme here. Not that I'm big into themes, so I guess the chat can vote on who loses their black stripe first. I know I'm going to be fourth, so that doesn't really matter. So we can take it from there. So the black stripe, Kevin, we'll start with you, because I heard it commented a couple of times on social media that this is kind of undefinable thing, and I don't truly believe that it's that undefinable. There's it's not, okay, you do X, Y, and Z, there goes the black stripe, but it's based on work ethic and basically whether you've earned being a Buckeye, right?
Yes and no. It was something obviously installed by Urban Meyer, who was very good when it came to team psychology on a lot of things, and it's obviously a motivational tool. Are you somebody that needs to practice pissed off? Well, we're going to leave that black stripe on you no matter how good you are. We're going to leave it on you for a while and have this goal that's just out of reach for you to keep pushing toward. Oh, you're the opposite. You're a player that needs to have, some minor victories along the way to be able to get to, where we can unlock your as much potential as possible. Well, we're going to take that black stripe off of you. So you're right. It's not a matter of, okay, you can run a mile in this amount of time. You can do however many pull-ups. And if you can't do pull-ups, you can do the flexed arm hang like you could in junior high school or whatever. And there's no list of criteria per se that you have to. It's not like a team physical or anything like that. It's not like a fitness challenge or anything like that. But there's not really I don't think a black stripe is viewed the same way from player to player, position group to position group, or whoever is deciding, if you have achieved enough credits to be able to remove the black stripe, in my opinion.
It's like the Supreme Court, you know it when you see it, and certain rules there, and that's what that is, basically.
In the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You know it when you see it.
Kevin and Tony would both get the black stripe off on the same day, in my opinion, because they are two of the more humorous people that you'll ever come across. Maybe it doesn't come across in this forum, but in terms of sense of humor, they are 1 and 1A. So that's important in my book, because we all need some. Covering sports is like doggone, it's it's so brutal, what we have to do day in and day out, the struggles that we put up with to cover these teams that we cover. But so it's important to have a little bit of levity when you're in the foxhole there, and bullets are flying and these kind of things. But black stripe, Kevin outlined it perfectly. It's just something that you aspire, that it's a rite of passage. Now you are really a member of this football team, and we can put you out there on a fall Saturday and know that you're going to get the job done, is what it basically says. And there have been guys who come in as freshmen and not had it taken off until, the following spring. They've been on campus for 7-8 months and finally get it taken off the following spring. And, everybody develops at their own pace, and it is what it is. I would think Will Howard will be one of the next ones. I don't think he's had his done yet, has he? To my knowledge, I think Downs was the first transfer. And I think Will Howard will be, by the way everybody talks about him. The awkward thing is it's usually done by, quote, your big brother, who, I don't know, is Devin Brown his big brother, who is younger than him but been in the program longer than him? That's kind of and they're fighting for the same position. But we saw them working out after practice yesterday, and those 5 quarterbacks, they make a really neat group, standing there working out together and throwing balls, and they're trying to throw a 50-yard pass, and all these different things that they were doing after practice yesterday. It was kind of neat watching those guys go through a little bit of post-practice throwing. So to me, I would think Howard will be one of the next ones that comes up, but certainly deserving that Downs got his, Jeremiah Smith got his, And I don't know anybody else so far besides those two.
Judkins.
Oh yeah, Judkins as well. So those two transfers got them off, here in the last day or two. So that was big news, certainly.
Yeah, Tony. In the upset of upsets, Steve just mentioned his name. I had to look it up. Was it Jason Smith? Jeremy Smith? No, Jeremiah. I had to look this kid up. Yeah, he got his black stripe removed first. How about that?
After 4 practices, fastest ever at Ohio State. So far, he is living up to the hype based on talking to people who we've talked to, and we will see him firsthand on Saturday at the open practice, the Student Appreciation Day. So, yeah, Carnell Tate set the record previously in terms of fastest receivers last year after 5 practices. Jeremiah Smith gets it done 1 practice sooner and was expected to be the first freshman to lose his black stripe. I think surprised some that he beat out Caleb Downs in making that happen.
So our buddy JR posted a video right after that happened. He made a statement that Jeremiah Smith would be the first true freshman to start game 1 under Ryan Day, or maybe it was on offense. Can we verify how many true freshmen have started?
Denzel Burke started the first game at corner back against Minnesota 3 years ago.
21. Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. So we know on defense it's happened under Ryan Day. On offense under Ryan Day, I don't know who that would be.
No opening day. Well, because Travion Henderson didn't start till game 3. Kyle McCord didn't start until like game 3 or 4 against Akron. Not that would count. But yeah, offensively, Paris Johnson did not start as a true freshman. He was a backup.
Michael Jordan started, but that may have been an Urban year.
That was 2016, 17.
2016, yeah.
One of the things, is, we can talk about starting, but what personnel package does Ohio State come out in on its first offensive play? Are you out there in 12? Or what are you doing? I understand the spirit of the statement of, to me, it just means that he's going to go out there and he's going to see as many, if not more reps than any other receiver. And he's going to be playing, on the first series or whatever. And that's, I think we are going to see him as a day 1 starter. I really do believe that. But I also know that just based on what personnel you have and everything else, and the water gets murky really quick.
Yakov, appreciate you being here on show number 260. So as Tony alerted us last week and reminded me, and we may have a nice little look at something later in the show. Number 260 means, if you do the math, 52 times 5, that's 5 full seasons here at the Voice of College Football with these 3 and Buckeyes Live. So we're starting year number 6 today. Appreciate all of you being here. Super chat contributions are welcome. Yakov says, Kirk Barton, J.J. Smith, already best wide receiver for Ohio State. I don't know why Kirk Barton would know. He always had his head down, blocking some dude in front of him. What wide receivers are worth downfield. I'm just kidding. Of course, he knows his football. What do we think about that statement?
Well, talking to legitimate people who are allowed into the building who have seen him, seen Jeremiah Smith, he has, like I said, been outstanding. One person I talked to said, called it breathtaking watching him, and that he was targeted a ton on Saturday in the scrimmage there and was making catches against everybody, first team, second team, whoever he would come up against, he was doing well. So, from the people that I'm talking to, and like I said, we'll see him on Saturday. I don't know what to expect in terms of a full season. I do know that I went back and looked, and David Boston started game 6 of his freshman season. So I think I would not be surprised if Jeremiah Smith is starting before then.
Yeah, Jeremiah he's the real deal. We hear stuff, from year in and year out. Carnell Tate from Marvin Harrison was better, better at that point than Marvin was at that same point of his career, or even like a year after. But when it comes to Jeremiah, yeah, everybody that I've talked to, I mean, I've had the opportunity to really pay attention to him for a couple years in high school as well, and I've been able to see him play. And I mean, and if you just knew that he was going to come in and just command attention, and he's certainly getting it. And I'm going to jump on mute as the animals are fighting.
I'm interested. Obviously, Saturday we get to go and watch the team scrimmage for a little bit in a Student Appreciation Day practice, and there'll be a lot of viral videos that come out of that. And hopefully we'll get a better idea of what we're dealing with here with Jeremiah Smith, and is he truly the best receiver on the roster? And of course it's just one day, just a snapshot, but everybody said that attended last Saturday's scrimmage that he played pretty well. So I guess we'll get to see it up close and in person. And again, what can we glean from these things? Just little drips and drabs, here and there. And they're going to assemble the team in the fall, obviously, but it's important to see who is practicing and who is performing at a high level, I suppose, right now as well.
So, Tony, you mentioned before we started here that one David Sanders, who's got a lot of skinny numbers next to his name, he must be awfully good. Number 1 offensive tackle in the country, number 1 player in the state of North Carolina, number 2 nationally. That's 247 Sports. That's also the composite. So everybody's pretty much set on this guy. And out of Providence Day School in Charlotte, North Carolina, going to be visiting Columbus, and I think he'll have some time to stop by campus at some point.
Yeah, Steve Wiltfong, 24/7, coming out and saying that Sanders is going to be on campus at Ohio State this weekend, which is pretty significant. But again, I don't think that Ohio State is the favorite here, and Kevin can speak to that more. But I know they are always swinging for the fences on these 5-star offensive linemen, and generally they only land the guys who are in state, and that's about batting 500 on that if you take into account the Jackson Carman miss and previous misses over the years. But yeah, if there's one guy in the class that they don't have yet that they would take, it'd probably be that guy.
Yeah, just to jump in, I always said that Ohio State probably was running 3rd, 4th when it comes to David Sanders, but he certainly is, making the effort to keep Ohio State in his picture. So, am I coming around to Ohio State's chances? I don't know if I'm ready to say that, but it would be a hell of a lot more telling if he never came back to Columbus to visit. Then it would be really easy to say, well, they're not going to get him. But we'll see. We'll see what comes out of the weekend and all. I mean, he is a tremendous talent. I mean, he's that type of offensive lineman that every program out there wants, and that's the problem when you're having to recruit somebody who could have 130 offers if they took time to answer every phone call that they got and everything else. But, I think it's an uphill battle.
Our buddy Michael Campbell is making the most obvious prediction out there. Of course, Notre Dame wide receiver Micah Gilbert will just be the latest in a line of Notre Dame wide receivers to outperform Ohio State wide receivers. So,
do they have any quarterbacks for the spring at Notre Dame?
Well, the other thing is, sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
I was just going to say, because last count I heard they're down 2 quarterbacks, and that's not a statement of pulling for injuries or anything. That's just dirty pool. I mean, but I'm just saying, for all this S posting that Michael Campbell likes to do, he really needs to pay attention to his own house a little bit more, because he's in the deep water right now.
I think judging somebody based off of what happens as a freshman is silly. And if somebody goes and outperforms Jeremiah Smith as a freshman, that's fantastic. I will remind people that Jackson Smith and Jigba had 49 yards receiving as a true freshman, and then 1,600 as a sophomore. So whatever happens as a freshman happens. If it doesn't happen as a freshman, it doesn't mean anything. Terry McLaurin didn't have his first catch at Ohio State until his third year. Paris Campbell didn't have his first catch at Ohio State until his third year. You're going to take those guys 7 days a week. So good luck to Micah Gilbert. I hope he does fantastic. I hope there's Riley Leonard is available this fall to throw the ball to him, and I hope Notre Dame does what they can do to reach their ultimate goals of being 10-2.
Did you know that nobody under the age of 89 has been alive since Notre Dame last beat Ohio State? That's kind of interesting, I think. Did you know that?
And at this point, we're not talking about one game or two games. I think we're up to 6 now.
Yeah.
So it's quite a trend.
Basically, whenever they line up and play each other, Ohio State wins. So, and usually pretty convincingly, although Notre Dame did make Ohio State work for it this past year, at the horn this past year, but and by this much, but it is what it is.
The guys were just wanting to make for good TV, I believe.
Well, everybody's going to be like, remember seeing that? I'll be like, yeah, on TV from the post-game room, because I'd already just said the hell with this and gone to the post-game room, which was about the size of a postage stamp, to shoehorn myself into my little corner to where I could shoot the post-game presser and have to, was not expecting the Lou Holtz, where the hell is Lou Holtz thing? That was, that something.
Came out of left field. Yeah.
But a dub's a dub.
It is at that. David Greenshield's here. Appreciate you, David. Good to see you. And obviously, you guys can't alter in any way or adjust your evaluation of these quarterbacks based on what you've seen, because you haven't seen anything. It's been a couple of weeks of practice, and you guys see little bits and pieces and that sort of thing. But in regards to just kind of your intel plus putting together just your observation of how this sets up at this point, what is the certainty that Will Howard is the starter versus how much of a fight he has on his hands?
I don't think anything is certain. I mean, I certainly have brought up examples of schools bringing in a transfer quarterback with the expectation that they're going to take the job, and they don't end up taking the job. But I think that's a little bit more of an outlier than how these things work out. In a lot of cases there, it is an incumbent with experience that beats out this transfer who comes in. Ohio State doesn't necessarily have an incumbent in terms of experience. I mean, Devin Brown, very little experience. Lincoln Kienholz, even less, as he was thrown into an impossible situation in the Cotton Bowl. I think that the fact that Will Howard is a true dual threat quarterback, and you don't have to do this, personnel sub or whatever on the short yardage, and we probably aren't going to have to see that with the addition of Quinshon Judkins and having a 1-2 punch of Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. But I really do believe Will Howard is going to win the job. We're probably not going to hear about it until like a week before the start of the season. There's no reason to put that out there early. I know we're going to be, fast forward to, Ohio State Buckeyes Live episode 262 or 263 once we get out of spring ball, and we're going to want to talk about, is the quarterback decision made at this point? I don't know, but I would put a sizable bet on Will Howard ending up being the guy.
Yeah, I just think in practicality, it would seem to be that it's his job to lose. And, everybody is getting an opportunity, and they're doing the best they can to spread out reps and get everybody as many reps as they can handle. Again, it's one thing to perform really well, in practice settings and these kind of things, but Will Howard has done it at the highest level of this sport and has a track record. And that's an awful lot for a young guy to try and unseat him just because, Will Howard is a proven commodity. So to me, again, I think it's his job to lose. And, I would be completely surprised if somebody else is starting barring an injury. Now my dogs are going nuts.
Well, for a couple of different reasons, I don't see a reason to name Will Howard the starter coming out of spring, even if he shows to be by far the guy. Number one, what if he shows up in August and gets outplayed? It's not a situation where you've got Trevor Lawrence and then you've got whoever you had behind him at the point. I guess it was Kelly Bryant, but where it's just a clear distinction and everybody knows what the deal is. So he's a new guy. And plus, then obviously with the transfer portal, that's the practical move to keep everyone engaged and involved. And I guess, Tony, to that point, somebody threw the over-under on quarterback transfers at 2.5 at me and wanted me to choose a side. And I said, are you kidding me? Well, that's an under. I don't see 3 quarterbacks transferring. 1?
Well, I don't like to push people out, but it is the portal era, and quarterback is the position that moves on more than any other. Or you can almost talk about it out in the open. Am I going to be surprised to see somebody go into the portal at some point? No. I know Ryan Day has no intention of naming a starter this spring, so why would anybody leave in the portal? Talking to Lincoln Keenholz, he has said that if he doesn't start this year, he's going to use it as a learning experience to battle for the job next year. If you've got 2 true freshmen that have just arrived doing what they're doing, if Devin Brown isn't named the starter, does he give the Joe Burrow ultimatum, like, am I the starter? And if they tell him no, we don't know who the starter is that enough reason for him to leave? I don't think he's not battling Dwayne Haskins here. So this is a job that could still be won by Brown or by Will Howard. But I don't think you can be surprised if somebody goes. It may be more surprising who the somebody is when somebody or if somebody chooses to go. I would also take that under unless Julian Sayin wins the job, which I don't expect to happen.
Yeah, 2.5. That's just very aggressive. I don't know. Sounds like you need to hang out with better friends there, Mark. Because 2.5. That's a lot.
That's hating.
Fortunately, I don't think my friends watch this show, so they are not going to have to respond to that comment. Yeah, 2.5 a bit high. But they could use a quarterback at Iowa. We did our show there with the Hawkeyes last night, and Cade McNamara is still not even limping around. They can't even carry him to the field at this point. He's completely out for the spring and 48% passer. And the latest version of, I don't want to name it because I think he's passed on. So rest in peace, former Kentucky quarterback. But Deacon Hill, reminds us a bit there. And, again, his completion percentage is going to be nowhere close to his number on the scale, of course. So they've got some issues.
I didn't even realize Cade McNamara was still a thing. I thought he was done, but hey, it's not every team out there that can go and grab somebody that led their team to the playoffs. Now, will he be bringing along Connor Stallions to help him?
I know he's been awfully quiet this offseason. I know that.
I mean, Kevin, you did a show recently about the top 5 quarterbacks in the Big Ten. It's not a great list. No offense to the show. It's not your fault. You're just working with the material of the Big Ten quarterbacks.
Exactly. Yeah. I would have had a much easier time doing the bottom 5, which, is kind of not the way you want to operate in doing this, but it's the Big Ten is not going to be hugely deep in quarterback names, and several of them are by way of the portal. When you look at Oregon and Washington and obviously Ohio State, and in that show I took Ohio State off the board. It was the other 749 programs in the Big Ten that I looked at there, but you've lost a lot from last year when you see what the quarterback landscape is, and you still have a couple schools that you don't even know what their situation is going to be, because they're going to have true battles coming into the season as well. And I don't know. It must be a full moon, because all animals are acting up right now.
Yeah.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see like Aiden Childs at Michigan State, Dylan Raiola at Nebraska, just because everybody, it might be a car crash, but it's a freshman quarterback, so
it's going to be.
We'll see. Yeah, I saw PJ Fleck talking about their quarterback. I think they got a transfer from somewhere. He's of course going to be high on everybody, but there'll be some interesting stuff. It's going to be some not great stuff. I'm intrigued to see what happens with Michigan, because I don't think they go into next season with Jack Tuttle and Alex Orji as their quarterbacks. Maybe Cade McNamara comes back.
Whoa.
Yes, Brosmer, I believe, is the name of the Minnesota quarterback. Came from an FCS school that I can't remember.
Can they bring back Bortenschlager or whatever that? Or is
Bortenschlager was at Maryland.
Maryland, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm getting my bad Big Ten quarterbacks confused.
And the Greek guy, he transferred to Rutgers. So it'll be between him and Gavin Wimsatt, who is a tremendous runner, but not so strong of a.
Could not throw the ball in the Atlantic Ocean.
No,
I will say
or the Raritan River.
Max Brosmer, the quarterback at Minnesota, transferred from, you said, an FCS school, not just any FCS school, from Ryan Day's alma mater, New Hampshire.
I should have pulled the trigger on that.
In the quarterback lineage, one of his second team FCS All-American, probably broke some of Ryan Day's records.
How does the Western Division group stack up? USC, UCLA, not that there's a Western Division anymore, but our Western Outpost friends. How does who's at Oregon? Who did Oregon get?
Will Rogers or Dylan Gabriel.
Dylan Gabriel. Will Rogers is at Washington. And then at SC, I mean, it looks like it would probably be Miller Moss, who came in and
did real well in the bowl game.
Really well in the bowl game.
Yeah, he was awesome.
And then USC will be, I assume, Ethan Garbers, who was the starter for most of the season last year.
All right, folks, tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern time, if you want to talk college football, don't come here. We are not talking college football for 364 days and about 21 hours. That's all we do. But for about 3 hours, I'm just going to be talking about our channel, our network, everything we've got going on here at the Voice of College Football. So if you don't care about us, you just want the college football talk, I respect that. Don't show up. But if you want to hear about the network, the grand vision, and all those other things, then please join us at 8 o'clock tonight, right on the main channel.
Awesome.
All right. See if I can lose my black stripe by then. All right, where do we go from here? I'm out of topics. Let's see, and I've not planned ahead in the rundown here, but we can go this route. So as again, Tony mentioned, show number 260, 52 times 5. That's 5 years. We're starting year number 6, and here we go. We've got. Well, we don't want to necessarily see just me, but we're going back to the days of only one of us on camera at a time. So here we've got Tony. We've got episode number 1. There's Tony. Oh, come on. I'm there. Steve's there. Claire's been long. Claire's there. Yes, we're still Facebook friends. I don't know what Claire's up to these days. I share a message with her once in a while, but there's Steve getting the job done.
That's my old basement.
And Steve's old basement that everyone's extremely familiar with. And I'm sure we would have gotten correct answers on that. There we go. So there's show number 1. Okay. So I went to show number 20. I went to show number 40. I went to 50. I was trying to find Kevin. So I went to 70. We got Kevin at 70 here. I'm sure he's waiting patiently. Can't wait.
Yeah, can't wait.
See show number 70 with there we go. Kevin
Oh,
had
I
yet
didn't
to
even have
learn
the
that you
lights
don't
on at
shoot in
that
front of a
point.
window.
Yeah,
Hmm.
well,
Are you professional?
hardly. I'm a rank amateur.
I think that was day one of TV production 101 at Kent State for me. Do not shoot in front of a window.
I like my
Well,
green screen.
Yes, it's
I'm eating lunch in my old kitchen.
the green screen that doubles as a curtain. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. All right, folks. That was fun, wasn't it? There we go.
I do have a topic for you, Mark. The football coaches and the rules committee and all of that talking about getting rid of the coaching limits in terms of allowing the QC analysts and those and other analysts to now do on-field coaching in both practice and games, which is something they tried to get done previously, but schools have been against it, or coaches have been against it, or the rules people have been against it. So now it sounds like more people are on board. The 100% of the AFCA seems to be on board with this. To allow, this would have allowed like James Laurinaitis to, or he actually was because he's a graduate assistant, but like Todd Fitch, the Ohio State quarterback assistant last year, you're not allowed to be doing coaching if you are not one of the 11 coaches or the GAs. So now this would allow larger staffs, everybody to coach. And I think one of the aspects of this, it will allow people maybe to help retain players on teams because there's going to be more people engaging with them. Like Ohio State would have 2 full-time running backs coaches, 2 full-time receivers coaches, and 3 defensive line coaches. And it allows position coaches to get some of the stuff off their plate so that they can, like, every player can get more individual attention.
Makes sense to me. They got more money than God. May as well, put it where it should be.
Can't just all go to the players, guys.
Nope.
well,
Not
they
yet,
can
at
get to
least.
a point too where they can start letting more guys go out on the road, and maybe that's a way that you find a little bit better balance. If you're not having to just completely burn the candle at both ends.
Yeah, and they will just stay with the 11 guys on the road, including the head coach. But it doesn't have to be one of your 10 assistant coaches. You can designate somebody else to be on the road. Now, I'm going to assume that it has to be the same 10 guys all year, all calendar year, or all calendar cycle. But it doesn't necessarily have to be any of your main position coaches. It could be an assistant position coach, or it could be, a QC guy or somebody that you send out on the road. And because I remember back when the 10th assistant coach position became a thing in 2018, there was some thought that that would be a recruiting position, and that guy would just go out on the road and recruit the entire time. Now, theoretically, you could do that with this move. And you could also, here's a thought, have a full-time special teams coordinator as well. I know it's an out-of-the-box thinking, and Ohio State fans don't want to hear about special teams coordinators standalone, but you'll see that as well with this.
Tony has shouldered the load for everyone and lifted the black stripe for the group by producing the show in front of me there. I try to keep 2 topics in my brain to keep ahead of everything and monitor the chat and all that other business that I'm doing, but I just ran out of topics. So thank you, Tony, for that. New rule to keep up with concerning coaches on the field.
Can I throw in what did we learn talking to Larry Johnson and Keenan Bailey? Was it yesterday? Mm-hmm. We had about 15 minutes with each of them. I can just kind of dovetail that real quick. It seems to me Larry Johnson has now been dragged over to the side of saying with the 16-game season that he's going to have to play more players early in the season, early in games, and these dogs are going crazy again. So that was a good thing, I thought. And I'll mute. You guys can take it from there, and I'll come back.
Let Kevin go until his dog starts barking.
I was going to say mine is barking a little bit, trying to figure out where the hell that was coming from. It's at the window right now, looking out, kind of, it dog ownership. It's great until it's not. Yeah, I didn't get to listen to Larry as much. I was at Keenan's table, so I'll tag in Tony there because
Yeah.
I was at Keenan's table.
Yeah, Larry, he said the reason he didn't rotate as much last year was because guys weren't ready, and he doesn't like putting guys that aren't ready into situations where they could be negatively impacted then and also down the road. But one of the things we keep talking to about with these assistant coaches is the 16 game schedule and how they're already talking about that and getting guys ready to deal with that. And so they've got plenty of guys that can play defensive end. They've got 5 guys that they trust with the 2 starters, and then Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson and Mitchell Melton. Can they get a 6th? Can Joshua Mickens, the redshirt freshman, or Edric Houston get in there as a 6th? They're going to have to. They just want the young guys to take a bunch of reps in the spring and early in the season. That way, the veterans that are going to be playing in the playoffs or in the conference championship or against Michigan aren't too tired by that point. They haven't been overworked. So you kind of start slowly, and not that the first few games are going to be preseason, but you're going to see a bunch of young guys. That is the plan. Now it's up to them to actually do it, and when the action is actually going on, because we see assistant coaches who are in charge of substituting, like they're the ones who tell their players to play. They do the substituting. They talk a good game about, yeah, we're going to get rotation in there. We're going to get a rotation in there. And then after the game, it's like, well, why didn't you rotate? And they're like, well, it was close. It was too close. It didn't want to lose the game. So they've got a pretty easy schedule this year for the most part early on, so they can do a bunch of repetition and rotation. And like I always say, back in 2017, for about the first 4 or 5 weeks on a defensive line group with Sam Hubbard, Nick Bosa, Jalen Holmes, and Tyquan Lewis, Chase Young was leading them in the number of snaps for a while just because of the blowouts in the early season portion of the season.
Did we deduce at all what a 2 deep might look like on the defensive line? It seemed like Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson are probably the primary backups. And then who did you feel were maybe next up at defensive end? Just some of the freshmen? Is that what they're down to at that point?
Yeah, Mitchell Melton would be the 5th defensive end, and then can Mickens or Edric Houston be there? Now, defensive tackle, because I asked Larry Johnson, with Ty Hamilton and Tyleek Williams being your 2 starters, they are interchangeable. They can both play 3 tech or nose tackle. So I said, who would be the next guy in? And the first guy he said was Cade McDonald. They have him at nose tackle right now. The 3 tech, Tywon Malone is the veteran of the group, but Larry Johnson kept talking about Jason Moore, the redshirt freshman, who has stepped up, and he brought his name up several times, called him the ideal 3 tech in this defense, 6'5", 295, played some 3-4 defensive end at DeMatha. So I don't know who that number 2 3 tech is at this point.
Where does Hero fit into that?
Well, and Hero is interesting because Jim Knowles talked about him as a nose tackle and a 5-man front, and you'd have 2 defensive tackles on either side of him, and then JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer outside of that, and in the bear front or the double eagle front. So I think Hero Canoe, and he played nose last year. Is he that next guy? Is he 3 tech? Because these guys play both positions. So I think Larry just kept talking about Hero, Cade McDonald, and Jason Moore. So some semblance of those 3 are the next 2, unless Tywon Malone continues to catch up, because the whole baseball thing has just set him behind for so long. And now that he's only had just like 1 full year, not even a full year, I don't think yet, of just football and no baseball.
Wow. I know that Keenan Bailey talked ad nauseum about wanting his position group to be the best one on the team, the best in the Big Ten. I mean, he is like pushing them to be leaders on the team. I mean, I think G. Scott takes that position naturally, obviously, as a leader, just because of the relationships he's built with so many of his teammates. It seems like he's a guy that people lean on. and he's come such a long way in 4 years, I think, in terms of maturity and everything else. So I think he's potentially going to have a really fun year. And, is he Cade Stover? No, but can he do other things that maybe Cade Stover couldn't possibly? So let's see what happens there. After him, I think it's wide open. Obviously, they bring in Kazmarek from Ohio University, and you figure he's going to play. Jelani Thurman is the guy everyone is just agog about. Is he going to get a chance this spring and this season to make some inroads? And then what is it? Is Bennett Christian the player coming back from the year that he had to sit out for the performance-enhancing drugs? So he's a guy that's got to be chomping at the bit because, the clock's ticking on him. So, what was it? Joe Royer transferred out, to Cincinnati? Does that sound right? And then I'm not even sure who else we're down to at that point. But, it's a good group. And, it's going to be weird not seeing Cade Stover out there after all these years, but they're going in a new direction at that position.
And they're going to be adding 2 more. I'll say it quickly with the barking. They're going to be adding 2 more tight ends in the summer with Demarion Witten and Max LeBlanc.
I just didn't know if that was Kevin or Steve. I was just trying to figure that out. I haven't yet distinguished the barking tenor of each. All right, folks, once again, 8 o'clock Eastern time on the main channel tonight. If you want to learn more about what we're doing here at the Voice of College Football, it's the state of the Voice of College Football. Kevin, you can catch on BuckeyeHuddle.com and also the Big Me podcast. And I don't know if Kevin is prepared to say anything more about what he's got going on. Maybe we go otherwise.
Yeah, we'll go quickly here. I'll be going live today at 1:30 to kind of just do like a mailbag. I don't really have anything planned. Last week was a very chaotic week with all the basketball going on, so fell behind on the shows. So join me at 1:30 at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle for Big Me Kickoff.
Tony, unless your cat is barking.
No barking. Dropped a new episode yesterday talking about what did we talk about? Oh, some stuff from the scrimmage on Saturday. And so you can find that. We'll record another one tomorrow talking about some other stuff, some Ohio State stuff. We've got interviews tomorrow with players, so something will come from that. And let's see, I just wrote today a story at BuckeyeHuddle.com with Chip Kelly talking about growing up in the same town as Ryan Day and how he knew from like Little League that Ryan Day was going to be something. So you can find that at BuckeyeHuddle.com.
We got yet another third base comment out of Jim Harbaugh this week. He's taken that one to the NFL. Steve, what's going on?
Glad that basketball is over. I mean, not happy about it, but from a workflow standpoint, it 4.5 months of that was more than enough, and they proved their point. It would have been cool if they gone on to the Final Four of the NIT, but they didn't. So that season is over, and we can devote a lot of our attention right now through the spring game on what's happening with Ohio State football. I'll do a chat on Monday night on our site where I answer questions from our subscribers and anybody that posts basically on our message board. So that's kind of a cool feature, interactive, that we do try to do every Monday. I skipped it this past Monday, but we'll be back there this coming Monday, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of observations and videos and pictures and everything from the student appreciation practice on Saturday. So be sure to check in Saturday afternoon for all of that, and Sunday, and that's what we'll be doing. I'm going to Cincinnati tomorrow. I'm going to miss the interviews with an assortment of players tomorrow because I'm going to Reds baseball game number 1, and as Joe Nuxall used to say, Marty, you can't win them all unless you win that first one. And today is definitely that first one. So hopefully we get blue skies and 60-degree temperatures on the banks of the Ohio tomorrow.
Sweet.
Yep.
Love opening day.
I know the Guards are opening at Oakland. So that's their usual open I guess they did open with Cincinnati last year, maybe, or the year before, but they are opening on the West Coast at Oakland. So that's have to stay up late for some of those.
I think my
58 sunny don't look too bad tomorrow.
There you go. There you go.
I think my biggest thrill on opening day in person was my favorite player, Toby Hara, hitting a home run for the Indians against the Rangers on opening day.
That's cool.
In about 36 degrees. Well, it might have been less than 36. We had snow flurries at Old Municipal Stadium on that day in front of like 66,000.
I had people at Ohio State. I organized this in '87. We bought 10 tickets in the top row of Riverfront, right behind home plate, and 10 of us carpooled down from Baker Hall and went to the opening game that year in 1987. And one of the guys was from Cleveland. And so he's like, the next year, 4 of us carpooled up and we went to Cleveland. And so on opening day, which I thought was kind of cool at the old stadium. And so we're driving up there and I'm listening to the Reds opener on WLW, which I could pick up. It may have been 88 or 89. May have been 89 because Oral Hershiser had finished, I want to say 88, when they won the World Series with a consecutive scoreless inning streak that carried over to the following season. He ended the regular season with 0, like whatever the record was, he had, set it or whatever. And in the very first inning at Cincinnati on opening day of 89, the Reds got 4 in the first off Oral Hershiser, and I am just screaming and yelling, driving up 71. I know that had to kill Kevin, although, obviously the Dodgers had just won the World Series, so I don't think you were too broken up about it. But that was one vivid opening day that I wasn't at. A sad one. I was there in, I think it was 96, when the home plate umpire, John McSherry, after 7 pitches, collapsed and died right there on the field, had a heart attack. And damn, that sucked. That was a rough one.
Wow.
Man.
Yes, Kevin, on 1989. Yeah, Oral Hershiser was practically good enough to carry that through a postseason streak of pitching like every other day, it seemed. You're on mute, Kevin.
He was amazing.
Yeah, in '88, I was living in New Hampshire and became friends with maybe the only other Dodger fan in New Hampshire, and remembered all of that. And to start the '89 season, yeah, I would have been a freshman at Ohio State, I guess. So yeah, it was Hershiser in his prime, Bulldog, as Tommy Lasorda nicknamed him. Hell of a pitcher. I got an opportunity to meet him at the twilight of his career when he was with the then Indians, now Guardians, and I don't get starstruck often, but that one was pretty cool.
Good stuff. Well, guys, on maybe a final topic here, NCAA president just released here on ESPN News Services in the last half hour. NCAA president Charlie Baker, I guess, in the latest attempt of the NCAA trying to stay relevant, calling for a ban on college prop bets in states with legal sports wagering. Wagers.
Ohio's already outlawed it, I believe.
Yeah,
Ohio's outlawed.
Ohio's already on board with that and has already put that in place.
No, that's just player bets, though, right?
Yeah,
individual player prop bets.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't win enough to be upset by the loss, so it's like it's fine. It's fine. Whatever. This helps me, actually, if we think about it. So I'm okay with this.
Protect me from me.
Exactly.
I'm going to have to go whip this dog. We need to call this dog.
All right, we're good. We want to save your dog, Kevin. All right. Everyone be back here for 261 next week, probably on Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. But subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications. That's the reason we do all this, for you to know when we're here. So we appreciate you being here again, 8 o'clock Eastern time tonight. If you want to talk the voice of college football with us. Steve, thank you. Kevin, Tony, guys are amazing. Appreciate it. Everybody lock in on their work this week, and we'll see you next week.